Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Lisa Grace and today we have a brand new sketchbook. So we're going to be making a cover page. So what I wanted to do today is, I've painted abstract before and kind of had like a word that I was thinking about to paint an abstract scene. So I was thinking of having a word which would represent my year and represent the sketchbook and kind of just like be the guide for that. So the word I was thinking of was wonder, and I just moved into my freshman year of college and there's so many new things, and I was relating that back to a new sketchbook. It's not quite the same, but I wanted to have this sense of like wonder with every new like challenge that comes, like rather than being afraid, thinking of like what can I learn from this, or where's the beauty in the situation, or just on my campus, like walking around, getting to my classes, I could either just zone out and see just the concrete floor, or I could have wonder and like see the flowers that are blooming around me, or the trees or the clouds. And so that's my word, and that's the painting we're going to be doing today. So let's get started. So I'm going to be using acrylic paint today, and this method of painting is a method I learned from an artist named Makoto Fujimura, and he uses a process of painting a lot of thin layers. And so I'm using these really pigmented acrylic paints today, and I'm going to be watering them down to make some beautiful layers. And also I'm using this gold paint kind of thing. It's like really pigmented, and so it'll be helpful for making beautiful layers. I'm really excited for this painting. I'm just using some primary colors today because that's just about all I need. That's what I normally use for my acrylic paintings. So I'm gonna add some washi tape to make kind of a border. I think that always adds a lot whenever you're doing something abstract, because you can kind of like have more of that like framed in, especially when it's, you know, not of something specific. So I'm gonna use this washi tape to put a border down on the edges of my sketchbook. And it's kind of important to have the line straight, because once you peel it off, you can really see if they're crooked or not. So this is a moment where I choose to be a little bit more particular. I'm choosing to line up this washi tape with the coil of this notebook rather than the perforated line that goes about like right here, because I'm gonna keep this in the sketchbook and I'm not gonna tear it out. So I'd like the frame to be centered on the page rather than in the perforated section. Before I start, I'm just gonna think for just a minute and kind of envision what I want this to look like. I'm gonna go with the flow, but I want to have like a direction before I start. Like, what do I want this to look like? One thing I like to do whenever I'm working on these kind of abstract paintings is start with light colors. I like to build up, so I add a lot of water to my acrylic paint. So whenever I start putting it on my paper, it is really subtle. One thing that Makoto Fujimura talks about with this method is kind of his theory about art, and what you think about becomes kind of imprinted into the page. And so he like talks about like how important it is to be intentional about what you're thinking about whenever you're creating. So having a word like, for this painting I'm doing wonder, having a word like that and just thinking about what that means to you and what you're thinking about. He talks about how much that impacts the piece, which I think is a really cool concept. It's fun to see what the colors do to each other whenever they touch, how they mix. So now I've kind of gotten my entire page soaked with color and water, and it's time to let it dry and wait so we can add the next layer. So now that my first layer is dry, we have some really pretty like effects here with like this water and kind of how the colors mix together. Now we're gonna go in with another layer of just some thin colors to add to the dimension and the depth of this painting. With this second layer, I like to kind of like add texture in the movement, so like I'm leaving space between some of them, and this adds a lot of depth to these paintings. So this is multimedia paper, which is okay for kind of watercolor paintings, but the best paper would probably be watercolor paper. And so what you're gonna have with this, using this kind of paper, is just a little bit of a warped effect where the page bends a little bit. But that's okay because this is a sketchbook and a place for experimenting and learning, so. So now I'm just gonna let this dry. It's really hard to just stop and like take that time to let it dry, but I think it's gonna add so much to the depth and like the meaning of this painting. Okay, now that all my layers are dry, I'm gonna go in with the final layer, which is the gold. So I just have this folk art treasure gold that I got from Walmart. And so I'm gonna be using it, watering it down to kind of make these tiny like shimmery effects for layers. Just gonna put some down on the paper here to use. Getting some water to kind of thin it out, work with. I'm just gonna start with a really thin layer first to see kind of like how it works, how pigmented it is. Okay. So right now, this layer is really subtle, but I'm just gonna keep building up. Well, I've officially finished the painting, and now it's time for the most satisfying part, the washi tape peel. Sometimes the washi tape tears, but it's white, so it's okay. Sometimes if it does tear, I like to start from the opposite direction so it doesn't tear as much again. I'm just gonna trim off this little excess paper. There we go, a lot better. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This was such a fun paint, and I'm so looking forward to the rest of the sketchbook. So I'll see you guys in the next video.